And it would be lovely to have the people in the back or anyone to come sit on the ground right in the front here. So we're going to go through a little bit of a process together that Dr. Zach is going to lead for us all. So come and settle. Beautiful, beautiful. Come on in. We have a very, very important topic to cover this morning. I'd like to ask for your support in holding ourselves to silence right now, if you would. Come into the space. Come into silence, come into presence. Beautiful. Thank you. My name is Tommy Rosen. I am honored to be at the International Yoga Festival. I have to bow down always first to Pujya Swamiji, Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswati Ji, and Pujya Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati Ji for their dedication, for their love, for their commitment to the path of the human being, to their path of yoga, their path of service in this world. So grateful for them. So grateful. So my intention this morning is to introduce the esteemed panelists briefly, and then Dr. Zach Bush will lead us in a very profound experience. And so first I'm going to introduce these four amazing human beings next to me. And then we'll speak about this process very briefly, and then we will go right into it. Beautiful. Okay. Amish Shah. Amish Shah is the visionary founder of The Natural Law, an award-winning movie and movement dedicated to integrating ancient wisdom such as Ayurveda and yoga with modern practices to foster holistic well-being. His mission is to inspire individuals to reconnect with the natural rhythms of life and unlock their highest potential. His work reaches millions of people through Deep Origins, a media platform dedicated to sharing timeless wisdom with modern audiences. Amish, welcome. Thank you for being here. Shubha Sharaf. Shubha is an acclaimed health educator, author, and co-founder of the health education platform Sattvic Movement. Shubha's journey into health began after she healed several of her own chronic diseases by following natural healing principles. At the young age of 17, she decided to dedicate her life to the purpose of uplifting people's health. She learned the science of nature cure, under the guidance of multiple Indian masters. She is also a certified health educator from the Hippocrates Health Institute in Florida. Shubha, thank you so much for joining us today. Yes. Next to her is Harshvardhan Sharaf. Welcome. Harshvardhan Sharaf, a social entrepreneur and visionary, is the co-founder of Sattvic Movement. At the age of 20, he made a pivotal decision to transform his food and lifestyle habits. These changes resolved his chronic health issues entirely. This profound transformation became a defining moment for him and ignited his purpose. Today, he is committed to creating a global movement where individuals can reclaim their health through nature's abundant healing resources. Welcome, Harshvardhan. Dr. Zach Bush is a physician specializing in internal medicine, endocrinology, and hospice care. He is an internationally recognized educator and thought leader on the microbiome as it relates to health, disease, and food systems. He founded Seraphic Group and the nonprofit Farmers Footprint to develop root cause solutions for human and ecological health. His passion for education reaches across many disciplines, including topics such as the role of soil and water ecosystems in human genomics, immunity, and gut-brain health. He emphasizes the need for a radical departure from chemical farming and pharmacology, and his ongoing efforts are providing a path for consumers, farmers, and mega industries to work together for a healthy future for people and the planet. Welcome. Thank you. I want to position this a little bit. I come from Los Angeles, California. Many of you have heard of it. Los Angeles, California is known for many characteristics. One of those characteristics is that you can speak to anybody on the street about health and they will have an opinion. You can stop anybody and they will have an opinion, certainly about the doctor you should see, the thing you should take, the new supplement, the new thing that's happening. That is really happening in the zeitgeist of LA. It is very difficult in this day and age to listen to the wisdom from within. The more we are exposed to everybody else's opinion, the more we are exposed to everybody else's thought and consciousness, the more difficult it becomes to settle in and be able to listen to the one true voice, the voice that you are supposed to hear to create optimal health. It has to do with the design, the intelligent design of this system, of the mind-body system. It has to do with spirit. It has to do with the way we interact with the planet, with the cosmos, with each other. There is a way to be healthy. There is a path for each one of us to take, and we're going to explore that today. My prayer for this next hour and a half or so is that you come with beginner's mind. Come completely open to take in what these wise people have to share. And we'll do everything in our power to create not just a Gyan yoga experience, a yoga of the intellect, but to ground that in the body and to ground that in the experience. And so while I have personal agenda to hear the wisdom from each of these people, and I feel like each of them could speak for hours and hours, I know I'd like to hear from Dr. Zach Bush for the next week and a half. I'm not sure he has that kind of time, but I know he would do it happily. But what has come through is it would be important for us to have an experience together which will bring us into a unified field that will help us make the absolute most of our time together here today. Are you on board with that? Okay. So Dr. Zach Bush will take us through it together.
Thank you, Tommy. So the quote on the front of the stage, the practice of yoga is to quiet the fluctuations of the mind until it reveals the true self. And so we're going to practice this together. And so we're going to go into a deep yoga experience, because what we're going to be speaking to and learning from this illustrious group on stage is really a message that all indigenous healing arts that have moved through the eons have been there to reduce the static of human experience so that you can feel the true self. And then when you do that, you heal. And so the spontaneity of healing is a process of remembrance. Cure disease. And the longer and more difficult that train got, the more I realized I was actually part of the problem. I was giving my patients distractions that we call drugs. And in those distractions, they could not find self. And if they could not find self, they could not heal. And so I was on a long 17-year of training and then a long 17 years of detraining that I went through to find myself at this practice that we're about to do. And so I call this Invitation to the Soul. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through just a guided experience through your own temple, which is your body. And we're going to encounter the original design of you that predated your current human experience. Nobody has found why you're able to knit yourself together in your mother's womb. The mother has no instructions for you, neither do your cells. The egg, the ovum, and the sperm bring genetic information, but no template as to where that genetic information expresses itself. And so the body you form is literally designed within a field, within the atomic space. And so I'm going to introduce you to where that information dwells now, because you are rebirthing yourself every millionth of a second to become you again. Every millionth of a second, your particle state disappears and reappears. And it's reappearing to the original template. But unfortunately, it has static in the field, and so every time you disappear and reappear, you're starting to form a body that's not entirely you. It's a body that is forming to the static in the collective human experience. And the static we might call trauma. We might call it chemical trauma, psychological trauma, spiritual trauma, physical trauma. Disrupts the relationship between your original design and your current body. But this math is still yours to hold. It is still yours to reprogram to, and so I'm going to reintroduce you to this experience of you. And it is a beautiful thing. And so I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And we're going to recognize that your body is a temple. And to experience this, I'm going to have you move into your own body. A child. I want you to find your own child, and I want you to lay that child down in the hammock of your own pelvic floor. Your head is at the sacrum, at the tailbone. Your toes are up at the pubic bone, at the front of the pelvic floor. And the child lies in the comfort of this bed, cradled in your own pelvis. And you are looking up through your body. Laying back, you are looking up towards the sky, and at this frequency, the organ systems disappear, and what you are sitting within is a true cathedral. And in that cathedral, angels are singing. And there's a foundation for this cathedral, and it is your spine, and you can see the vertebrae stack one on another up towards the heavens. And the vertebrae stack. An increasing complexity of sacred geometry as it moves up your body. And as you reached the mid-thoracic, you see the ribs, which are flying buttresses, extend out and hold the chest wall, which is the walls of the cathedral, that then suspend the ceiling of the cathedral, which is your chest bone, that's vibrating in the frequency of you. And you gaze up towards the heavens, and you recognize that the ribs narrow, each one on the next, like you're looking down the throat of a lion. You're looking down the throat of a lion that is roaring your name into the universe. And you are here. And you are beautiful. And you are beautiful. And the lion roars your story. And the child begins to float upwards. The child is floating up through the cathedral as gravity lets go. And the child floats through the ethers in the open air of your cathedral, and the angels sing. sweet child. You are here, sweet child. And the child is floating up through the cathedral, and as it reaches the ribs and the sternum, the ceiling of the cathedral, it realizes that its own story is writ there in glowing runes, in shapes, the hieroglyphs of life, the vibrations of your soul is writ into the bones, the crystalline bones that are the walls and the ceilings of your cathedral. And your story is written here, never to be forgotten. It is added to the whole story of not just humanity, but a divine force that we call God that is expressing itself in all things. And you are here, child. And you are beautiful. And you are beautiful. And you are beautiful. And you're floating up through the ribs now. And you're moving towards that last set of ribs, and you're looking up through the neck, up into the heavens, to realize that there is a bright spot in the center of that neck, which sits at the base of the brain. In the base of the skull is a bright light that is almost overwhelming. It's dazzling in its brightness. It's just a tiny spot, like Venus itself. When the sun sets, it is a pulsing star that does not pulse, so it must be a planet. It is you. And so you're going to rise to that light, and that light is the pineal gland at the base of your skull. And you're going to rise into that space, and the pineal gland is a crystal. It looks like a pine cone, a complex stacked crystalline structure that is a lens through which you shine your soul. And the soul hits that lens, and as the projector at the back of the movie theater does, it takes that thin beam of self and expands it in a cone, and it projects that light, that original plan, that original design onto the floor of your pelvis, which is shaped like a radar disc, to receive you. And you are listening into you, child. So every millionth of a second as you disappear and reappear, you are tuning back to this light, this fiber optic information stream that is you. It is imperturbable. There is no human event, there is no human trauma that can separate you from the original design, from this beam of light. It is always there, and you are always retuning, and you are beautiful. And I love you. I see you, and you are radiant. And I want you to move into the pine cone now. And you're going to hit a frequency in this space that's almost overwhelming. It's going to shake and vibrate your very bones. This is such a high frequency that it erases all memory of trauma, all memory of disconnect, the original wound of abandonment that you took on in Lemuria or beyond. You will erase that trauma. You will erase the fear of disconnection, of abandonment itself, and you know you are Source, and you are from Source, and you've always been here. And the frequency in this pine cone is so high-pitched. It is the voice of angels that vibrates in this frequency, and it erases everything. Your beliefs, your limitations, your self-deprecation erases in this space. And the frequency of your pineal gland pitches up. And now we're going to rise that beam of light. We're going to rise that beam of light straight up out of the human mind, straight up into the space above this human body. And the child rises. Rise, child, rise. Up this beam of light, you are traveling the original information stream. Rise. Look down at your own body. Recognize the top of your own head. Say a prayer for the biology that sits there in this chair, that it will remember itself. Say a prayer that you will remember how beautiful you are in that body. Say a prayer of forgiveness. I am so sorry I have so disregarded me. This truth, this true self. I'm so sorry I did not trust you, me, it, I am. And rise, child. One more time, rise up that beam, and now you're going to hit a field that we would call the soul. This is a complex sacred geometry that is held in space-time, imperturbable, unchanging. This is you, and I want you to focus in and feel that. There are shapes, there are sounds, there are vibrations, and there are beautiful colors in this space. And each of you are having a different experience because there is no two souls that are alike. For they are all fractals, uniquely carved from the original source. And you are a facet of beauty, cut like a gem. And so take it in. What are your colors? What is the sound here? What are the shapes that define you? What is the vibration that's pulsing through you right now? You are so beautiful, my God, you are so beautiful, you are so beautiful, you are so beautiful. There's nothing wrong with anything, and most of all you. There is nothing wrong with you. Nothing is broken. Nothing is wounded. Everything is whole. You are, you are, you are, you are. I am, I am, I am, I am. But you are not called to spiritual escapism in this life. You came into a body to be a body. You took the assignment to move into separation so that you could repair that separation. Your purpose as human is to go and touch the divine and then bring it back down to earth. And this has been done many times by the gurus, by the saints, by the children of this planet. They have brought heaven to earth. But this earth now suffers at a level that is unbelievable. And so bringing heaven to earth is no longer enough if we are here to stay. We have put so much human trauma in that body that floats below you. Look back down at that body and witness what it carries. Generation upon generation upon generation of forgetting, of disconnect, of mistrust, devalued biology. And so it is time for us to reverse the polarity, and we're going to have to take earth to heaven. Visiting heaven is not enough for these human bodies. It is time for us to take earth to heaven. We are going to increase the vibration of all biology on this planet, for we are here to recreate and rebirth a planet that now suffers in its death tolls. But there is no death that does not harbor a rebirth, and that rebirth is ready. And you are part of this generation that promises, I will take earth to heaven, and I will change the vibration of the protoplasm of the plant life, the animal life, of the human life. I will be a part of that. And so let's go back down into these bodies with the original design, the original math, and let's bring biology to heaven. Let us take earth to heaven. And so we got to come back down into these bodies with the original design, the original math. You are king, you are queen, you are ancient, you are true, you are beautiful. You are so beautiful. You are so real. You are imperturbable, unchanging. And so bring this math down into that body and start to float downwards with this information renewed. With your face, with your heart renewed, float back down towards the body that sits below you. And as you come towards the top of your head, child, put your child's hand on top of that woman's head. Child, put your hand on top of that man's head. Look at your child's hand on the top of your own head. And feel that child bless you. You are blessed. You are loved from the heart of a child. There is no expectations. It's unconditional. I love you. 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 You are so beautiful. Don't forget. Don't forget. Don't forget how beautiful you are. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And now, child, bring the math back down into the body. Bring the original design back down into this body and move through the mind and erase the thoughts. Erase the thought patterns. An explosion of light ejects into the brain and it goes blank. And it begins again with the knowledge that you are source, you are child, you are the spark in the barrel. You are the beginning. You are the origin of self. And the mind goes blank to begin again. Nothing you have ever thought is worthwhile. It's time to begin again. And that white light penetrating every cell in your brain now moves down as you move down the skull and you feel every level reprogramming. Watch the story be rewritten into the bones of your own skull. Feel the vibration of the bone and the crystals as it rewrites its own story. You are here now. Move down into that pineal gland and the explosion of light in this space, and you can see the cone of light that shoots down into the pelvic floor. Relax your pelvic floor, relax the pelvis. This is your Dan Qian, this is the origin, this is the cradle of life within you. This is how you know who you are, is that beam of light that projects to your core. Travel down through that projected cone of light. Travel down and see the back of the ribs, see the runes being rewritten. Your story is being rewritten, for you are not a traumatized human. You are an indelible soul with the original design. You are perfect. Everything was designed so you could find yourself back to source within you, not outside of you. You are here to reveal the true self-identity that is the fractal of God so it can see itself. And so become that. Now rewrite your tissue. I want you to rewrite your throat. Rewrite your thyroid gland. Rewrite the lungs. Let the lungs vibrate. Take a deep breath in with new life, new light, new love. Breathe in, child. Breathe in. New life, new light. Let Ganga fill your lungs now. We are aquatic animals, born in the rivers and in the lakes and in the ocean of our mother's womb. We are aquatic. We breathe the liquid of water for the first 9 months of life. We are aquatic beings that look forward to our departure from the surface of the water to breathe the air. But we are aquatic beings having an angelic experience of flight as humans. So move the water back into the lungs. Take a deep, deep breath of Mother Ganga. Rewrite the story at the base of your lungs that had so much grief stored there. Rewrite that into the things that you would witness so that you would find the God in the death, so that you would find the beauty in the loss. That is not grief, that is love. That is not grief, that is unconditional love. Travel down through your belly, through the soil of life itself. Smell the humus, the floor of the forest within you. Smell the vibration of life as the seedlings of your thoughts come not out of the human mind, but out of the creative collective of the biome within you. You are nature speaking for itself through a single neurology that we call human. You are a neurologic system designed to listen to more biodiversity than any other being on this planet. You speak for the earth, you speak for the rivers, you speak for the mountains, you speak for the forest, you speak for the jungle, you speak for the monkey. You speak for the fish in the sea. You speak for the whale. You speak for the mother. You speak for the father. You speak for the child. You are the heart of a child. So child, lay back down in the floor of your own pelvis and see how beautiful you are. I love you so much. You are so beautiful. You are such a gift to this planet because you came here to see its beauty. And no one will see it like you. You will see the beauties different than all of those around you, for each soul is gifted with its own perspective. We will not see the whole beauty until you are here with us, and you have come at just the right moment to see all the beauty of death, so that you would be the midwife for the life to come. Stand at the birth canal of your own life, of your own expression. You are loved. You are enough. The fluctuations settle. And your true identity is there.
Let us take a deep inhale together and a full exhale. Coming into this space, here together by Ganga. Thank you. There is a theme that arises in consideration of the life and the experiences and the work of these people, and perhaps all of us. And that theme is a return to the natural way, a return to the natural flow, that we're involved in a collaboration. And so, Harshvardhan, I'd like to ask if you would speak to that return to nature and that collaboration, that great collaboration, and how that's been a part of your own healing and also the work that you do in the world.
Hello. Thank you so much for that beautiful experience. For a long time, I forgot we were on this side of the stage. We thought we were sitting right there with everyone. Good morning, everyone. So, the question is how the work that we do is allowing us to go back to nature, and how that has helped me in my own journey. So when my journey started, I didn't really know much about nature or how we are connected with nature. I think it started with simple changes with our food and our lifestyle, and we were very young at that time. So as we started getting some improvements in our health, we started believing that there is something more than we are taught in our schools. There is something more than what our doctors tell us when we go to them for a diagnosis. And that inquisitiveness as to what there is beyond what our parents teach us or beyond what our schools teach us allowed us to reconnect with nature. Can you repeat one part of the question?
Yes.
I want to make sure I answer that.
Yes. Tell us about your own healing and how you help people to return to the natural process, how you see healing.
So the biggest difference in healing that I learned was that we don't need to go out there and look for something on the outside to help us heal ourselves. So for the longest time I was suffering from chronic sinusitis. Basically the nose is blocked and you can't really breathe well. And I had skin conditions like eczema and psoriasis. And so my parents, like everybody's parents, would take me to doctors. And these doctors were always giving some kind of medicine. And because those medicines made me feel good initially, it would make me believe in them and constantly seek refuge in those medicines. And eventually there reached a time when I realized this is not giving me a permanent cure. I'm having to go back and back for more medicines. So eventually, I think I was 21, I was in London, and I was meeting a doctor, and the doctor had told me I need to get a surgery for a deviated septum. And it was that time when some alarm bells rang inside me and it said, this doesn't seem right. And that's when I turned towards nature and I started reading more about what is the root cause of my skin problems or my congestion in my nose. And I think that's when I realized that what I'm putting on my plate and the lifestyle choices that I'm making are not aligned with what's best for my own body. And I think it required that wake-up call from that doctor that day for me to look within. And when I changed my food habits, when I changed my lifestyle, I could see for myself that my skin cleared up, my nose opened up, I didn't need external validation. And I think that's where the journey began, to look through food and lifestyle towards what nature has to offer. So that was the starting point.
Thank you. I'd like to also ask Shubha if you would comment on the same thing, on your experience of healing and how you see this return to nature and the natural rhythm, and how you help your clients to do that today. If you could close the back doors, that would be amazing. Thank you so much.
So I was 17 years old when I was diagnosed with multiple health problems, like you said in the beginning. One was PCOS, other was thyroid imbalance. I had extreme levels of hair fall, I had skin problems, I had weight problems. And for the longest time during my childhood, I was taking medicines. I was taking allopathic pills for these problems. But every time I would go back to the doctors, can you hear me now? Great. I would get one more medicine added to my medicine box. And soon after, when I was studying in school, I met a teacher, and he taught me that when your food is wrong, medicine is of no use. And when your food is right, medicine is of no need. And that was something, that realization sparked a lot of curiosity inside me. That for the longest time I was just depending on pills, but no one ever taught me that the answer lies somewhere completely different in our lifestyle and on our plates. So when I started practicing the lifestyle that he taught, I was able to, within a span of 3 to 4 months, completely reverse all my health problems. And now it's been almost 8 years. We've not needed to go to a single hospital, a single doctor's visit, and just because of the lifestyle we practice, we've not needed medicines. But growing up, that was normal. That was what our life was. And through this process, I think one of the biggest realizations I came across was that our bodies are made up of the 5 elements, which is earth, water, fire, air, and ether, space. And the reason that we suffer from any kind of health problem, whether big or small, is because there's a disconnection with nature. There's a disconnection with these elements. And as soon as we re-establish that connection, we're able to heal any ailment. So when we talk about the earth element, when we simply start eating food that comes from the earth and not from packets, which is as close to its natural source as possible without processing, we automatically are able to take in the right earth element. When we talk about the water element, today we are eating all our food which is devoid of water. We're eating very drying foods. But when we start to consume water element, not just through drinking water, but through our food, we're able to balance the water element inside of us. When we start taking in sunlight inside our bodies, we're able to balance the fire element within us. When we do practices such as pranayam, or even there's something called vayu snan, which is air bathing. When we simply expose our skin to the wind element, we're able to balance the air inside of us. And when we do periodic fasting, that creates space inside our bodies. So this was a big realization that in order to heal, we don't need to look somewhere outside. We have access to Mother Nature, who's given us these 5 elements, and simply by restoring that balance within us, we can heal anything.
Amish, can you speak about this through the work that you do and the platform that you have and the reaching so many people as you do? Can you speak about how you're communicating that return to a collaboration with Mama Nature?
So similar to both of them, I had a long journey of health issues since I was a child. I'm first generation Indian American. My parents moved to America in 1978. I was born a couple years later. And as long as I could remember, I was sick my whole entire life. And I would go to doctors, and the doctor would say, nothing is wrong with you. I'd complain of stomach aches, and be like, here's some Pepto-Bismol, and you're fine. Meanwhile, I'm eating Doritos and drinking Coke at home. And so that continued, and I got eczema, and as I got older, I got migraines and sinus infections, and just continued to get worse and worse and worse. Then I developed vitiligo, eczema, migraines that I just couldn't bear. And growing up as a first-generation American in America, I was kind of caught between this doing rituals and pujas and stuff at home, but then I'd go play basketball and eat hot dogs with my friends and pizza and all that good stuff. Before I knew it, also with the American lifestyle is anyone can be rich. And I didn't grow up with that much money, so that's exactly what I did. And I was really good with computers, so by the time I was 24, I made my first $1 million with a tech company. This was in 2004. That company grew from $1 million a year to $15 million a year in 5 years. And I partied my ass off. I drank, I smoked, I did drugs, I ate whatever I wanted to, drank lots of coffee to stay up and work the grind, and I reached the American dream. I went from a modest 2-bedroom condo, driving a normal car in New Jersey, where I grew up, to having a 6,000 square foot house with a pool on the roof and a theater and an elevator in La Jolla overlooking the Pacific Ocean with a Ferrari, a Maserati, and an Audi. For some reason, I needed all three. It was around that time, I remember getting out of the shower and I was bloated and not feeling good, and vitiligo was getting worse, and I was depressed and suicidal, stomach pains every day. I couldn't breathe out my nose. The neti pot literally wouldn't work because that's how stuffed I was and felt like garbage. I just wanted to kill myself. And by that time, I started to go see doctors again because I didn't know what to do. And as a 29-year-old, my cholesterol was 370, near adrenal failure, pre-diabetic, pre-thyroid. And they said, nothing's wrong with you. Here's some pills. And so that didn't really help. I tried some pills, and I knew that something else was wrong inside of me. My stomach would just churn, and weird bowel movements, and all these kinds of issues that just were not normal. I just knew this wasn't normal. So over the next several years, I saw about 13 specialists. I had MRIs and CAT scans and all kinds of tests done. Every doctor's like, nothing's wrong with you. And I'm like, I'm in pain every day of my life. Something is wrong with me. And it just wasn't a pleasant experience. I went to acupuncturists. I started green juicing. I got rid of all my companies, every single one. Got rid of my Ferraris. I went to some Wayne Dyer conference back in the day, and he said something to me that just clicked. And I was like, it's the business. I'm gonna get rid of the business, get rid of the cars, get rid of everything, and start all over. Push the reset button. So I did. Went to start seeing naturopaths and doctors and scientists, other people outside of the medical system, because I just knew that the medical system wasn't gonna heal me. And this was the biggest thing that I discovered. It's only do what you love. So I sold everything off, and I went back inside and started meditating and was trying to get healthy. And I said, I love ancient wisdom, but I'm really good at this modern tech stuff. And so I sold everything off, and I had a bunch of money, and I started to shoot movies because I loved media. I love making music, I love making movies. And so I shot my first documentary called Dwarka, about Dwarka, which is a lost civilization about Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita, because I just loved it. As a child, everyone else was reading Tom Sawyer. I was reading about the Egyptian pyramids and how they were built. Like, I was just one of those kids, and UFOs and stuff like that. And so, as I started to release that documentary went viral on Instagram, or no, back then YouTube, sorry, had like 7 million views. Got picked up by Discovery Channel, and they flew me back out to do a part 2 called Expedition Unknown. But meanwhile, this time I started also shooting a documentary on Ayurveda, because I was still sick. Still didn't know what was wrong with me. Still getting the migraines, sinus infections, gut problems, stool problems. And I just didn't know what to do. And so I started shooting a documentary on Ayurveda. And that took me around the world. I ended up filming 45 scientists and doctors and experts, from Deepak Chopra to Dr. Lad to Mimi Guarnari, Pratap Johan, for those of you in India that know him. And when we would be done filming, I'd pull them aside and say, so if you got migraines and stomach problems, like, what would you do? And so they would be like, okay, well, take some triphala, or try this, take some turmeric. And I did that. And while that kept me going, I did Panchakarma. If you're familiar with Panchakarma, it's an amazing experience, Ayurvedic detox and rejuvenation process. And I started to feel a little better. I started to understand myself more. I started to realize that when I would eat certain foods, I'd be like, whoa, that doesn't really work. I'm gonna put that aside. I'm gonna try this instead. Meanwhile, although I was keeping myself going, I was actually continuously getting worse. To the point where my left eye stopped moving to the left. I couldn't move my body to the left. I had elevated white blood cell counts. I had a huge infection on the left side of my body. Just started to shut down. My numbers in labs were always up, down, up, down, up, down, just no consistency. Turns out, many years later, I came to India on a last whim, just praying, please, save me. I had no idea, I'm dying. I'm literally dying. And I felt like I was in my deathbed. And I'd have to be in bed by 6:30 p.m. every single day. I have 2 young children, couldn't even take care of them, couldn't help out around the house. And so when I came to India, I was at an event and going to all the temples and just praying, please, please, divine, just save me. I'm doing what I love. I already answered that call. Now what? And I took a genetic test here in India. And turns out I have celiac disease, which is an extreme reaction to gluten. So here I was, 38 years old, eating gluten pretty much all the time, not knowing that it's slowly killing me. The Western doctors told me that they refused to give me gluten tests. They told me there's no way you're allergic to gluten. They said impossible. They said you wouldn't have survived 38 years. Every time I went to go see my Ayurveda doctors, they'd say, are you allergic to anything? And I'd be like, no, doctors told me I'm not allergic to anything, I'm good. So I didn't know. When I found out, I had 7 ulcers, diverticulitis, inguinal hernia, polyp in my nose, and a slanted spine because my body was so inflamed. And when I found out, by that time I had filmed 40-something people, and I said, I'm putting this documentary aside. There's just no way I can finish this movie. I have to get healthy. I have to fix myself. Got my got my yoga certification, told the people in my company, like, you run this thing, I'm out. And I used Ayurveda to heal everything. Now, I still have challenges, but I'm about 95% better. There's people who I haven't seen in over a decade. They're like, you look younger, stronger, smarter. What happened? It's like, Ayurveda. Ayurveda's the answer. It healed me completely. And so it was 3 years after I went on that journey of self-healing that I was sitting in meditation, and I got this hit. And I pictured my hard drive with all the recording footage that I had in my garage in a box. I'd filmed everybody on Ayurveda, and yet I didn't have a movie. And I thought to myself, I'm happier, healthier, stronger, smarter than I've ever been in my life, that I can remember since I was a child. And that Ayurveda saved my life, and yoga, and obviously proper diet, no more drinking and all that. And that's when I called my editor, Troy, who's here with me also. And so we need to finish this movie. So we finished the movie over the next 2 years, and we released it in 2023. We've won 9 film festivals since. It's called The Natural Law. Thank you. And we are on Amazon, we're on Gaia. We've had over 200,000 streams, or 300,000 streams now. Went viral on Instagram. And we built this beautiful online platform where we have thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that have visited our website and asked for more information about Ayurveda. I found my Dharma. I found what I love. I found what saved my life. There's many conversations with God that I had that said, we kept you sick for so long so that you can pull this information and share it with the world. That's what I'm here to do. And so combining my skills of online and tech with the movie is kind of what we've developed, media and marketing.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Amish. Beautiful. Zach, from the medical doctor side of this story, you also have had your enlightenment, which has shown up for you, I feel, through our discussions, through the frustration of working with people and trying to help them, and recognizing that the methods that were at your disposal were not working. Could you speak to that and to your revelations and how you have come to see things the way that you do today?
I think the journey was an experience of creating a change within a human and then watching them express something that was not in line with the change. I was told that if I could change the biology, I would help the person, or I would change their trajectory. And so in internal medicine, I was running ICUs, and the intensive care unit is a place in which you can change an enormous amount of biology in instants. Like literally somebody would die and you can bring back their heart, you can restore their pulse, you can restore their blood flow, you can restore their brain function through an ungodly amount of technology and drugs and everything else, and then they would die again a few hours later, days later. And in the best case scenario, you would bring in somebody who's in sepsis and you give them antibiotics and you turn them around and you send them back out and they look like they were going to die, and then now they're alive, and you send them out thinking, wow, I really changed something. And then 4 weeks later or 4 months later, they're back in the ICU with worse condition, and you're back in this kind of revolving door. And so I felt like I was like at the end of some sort of like cascade of collapse of human biology, and I had lost the joy of it, but I was amazed by the death and dying process in the midst of that. For the beauty of it was very real in the midst of what was feeling like constant failure. I was failing as a doctor because everybody was dying. That's pretty ludicrous expectations, because it turns out that 100% of people, well, maybe one or two, if you talk the stories, maybe survive, but we have a very high death rate as humans. It's kind of sucks, and so you came into an experience to die. And then as a doctor, you're told, if that person dies, you're a failure. You start to map a lot of failure very, very quickly in the journey of being a doctor. And I came in at a time in 1992, 93 in my early medical training that I was told, you will be the first group of physicians that will get to see personalized medicine. Patient will walk in, you're swab their mouth, you're going to run their genetics, you're going to tell them what diseases they're going to get in their lifetime, what drugs are going to be beneficial to those diseases, and you will be able to cure more disease than any human has ever cured. That's what I was literally told on my first day of medical training. Fast forward 10 years, and I was the generation of doctors that saw more disease and collapse of human biology than any other generation of doctors had in 300,000 years. And so in that 10-year period, we saw a fundamental collapse of human biology that had never been imagined possible. And so the stories that these young, beautiful, talented people are telling is that at young ages, their biology was dysfunctioning at these severe levels. Their parents weren't. And that's an interesting problem, is that when we traumatize genetics through chemical trauma or otherwise, it's not that generation that expresses the dis-ease. It actually compounds with each generation for the next 4. And so when you add a chemical like DDT to the environment in 1960s and say, we're going to kill mosquitoes because they must be against humans, they're causing disease, so we should kill all of them. And so we spray all the neighborhoods in the world with DDT, trying to eliminate something like malaria. And we think, yeah, kids are literally running around in the spray with no apparent problem, so it must be safe. 10, 15 years later, suddenly children are being born with malformations of the brain, dysfunction of immune system. We're, oh my God, we got a serious problem. What's going on? Oh my gosh, these children are being born to young women that were exposed to DDT. So pretty quickly that got banned. But we would not see the full weight of DDT until 2060. 100 years later is when we will see the full toxicity expressed in the human biology, because for 4 generations, each one 25 years, for 4 generations, the chemical injury of DDT will worsen and worsen and will show up at younger ages with more severe disease. And so when you hear these stories of I had eczema at age 5 or 10, there's no way that's that child's problem. When you see a 2-year-old show up with an osteosarcoma, which I got to see often in my cancer practice, I was seeing osteosarcoma is something that happened in 80-year-olds. And suddenly by 2006, we were seeing it in 2-year-olds. That child is not expressing the cumulative damage of a lifetime that then caused the cancer. It's showing the cumulative damage from generations that's now expressing the cancer. And so when you start to take that in, you realize trying to treat disease in a human being is ludicrous, because what you're witnessing is the cumulative trauma of the human condition. And we blame the individual and we disempower them. In the 1970s, we unleashed an ungodly amount of chemical damage on human beings that we do not even know what we unleashed. But I'll tell you what it starts to look like, and I'll do a deep dive this afternoon at 3:45 on this issue, but what it looks like is a collapse of metabolism. Metabolism is a word that describes the release of sunlight. Light is life. You have to have an extreme amount of light concentrated to create a single bacterium, let alone a multicellular organism. Life is the concentration of light energy 1,000 times brighter than suns. The sun is the brightest thing physics does. The brightest thing the universe does is life. A single bacteria is 1,000 times brighter. A multicellular organism is 10,000 times brighter than the sun. And so when somebody says to you, you're a light being, you are a freaking bright light being. You're not like this like little glimmer over there, like, oh yeah, like sometimes I like sparkle when I smile. No, you're like a freaking pulsing orb of light that detected within the universe is burning 10,000 times brighter. So how do the non-human species find Earth? They simply look through non-human eyes to find the bright spots within the universe. We design telescopes so we can look at a light spectrum and say, there's a star. There are beings out there that figured out we're going to design telescopes that look for the ultraviolet frequencies of life. And then they can see these beacons out there in space of like, well, that solar system's going off. There's something there. Let's travel through this wormhole and get to that black hole, and let's go and visit that planet because, damn, there are some bacteria there. The thing's burning 1,000 times brighter than any star in the galaxy. Life is very, very bright. And in the 1970s, we added a chemical to our food system that would fundamentally undermine the ability of life to concentrate light. And we started feeding that to our children in 1976. And so I'll take you on a deep dive this afternoon of what that unfolded to this moment and what we can anticipate in the future. But I can't wait to tell you what nature revealed in the journey is that she has never allowed an injury that she didn't already have a solution to. Nature has never allowed a wound to occur that she didn't already have the cure for. There's a frightening time coming, and it's a few months away. There's going to be so many peptides on the market in the next few months and years ahead that are going to promise immediate dissolutions of issues. Take this peptide and your pain will go away. Take this peptide, your cancer will go away. Take this peptide, your depression will go away. I am terrified of this moment for humankind because I think we came here to suffer until we found the root wound. And the true antidote inside of that was you, not a drug, not a peptide. When we start getting really good at erasing the symptoms of being out of tune with self, we will never find ourselves. We will go into extinction pain-free, disease-free, and we won't even understand why we're disappearing. Do not trust the quick fix, people. Your pain is your path.
Thank you. So Zach mentioned his talk this afternoon. It's in Yoga Hall 4 at 3:45, and I highly recommend that we all be there to hear more on this. Thank you. I wanted to ask about how, as yogis, you've called your organization Sattvic Movement. Can you speak about the movement of the physical body? Obviously, we all know that's important. There's a direct connection between lack of movement and dis-ease. These bodies are meant to move. Can you speak a bit about how you bring movement into the work that you do and how important that is? We're all here at a yoga conference. One part of that yogic experience is movement. Can you speak to that?
So at Sattvic Movement, we share multiple habits with our community to live a life in peak health and joy. And one of those habits is called celebrate movement. So in today's day and age, we've started to look at movement, maybe not us here, but in the outside world, as an obligation, as a punishment, that we have to go on our mats or we have to go and go for a run. But we've forgotten that to move this body, to be able to move this body is not an obligation, but it is a celebration of our body's aliveness. The fact that we have legs today that allow us to run, to climb, we have arms that we can stretch high up in the sky is a gift of nature. And yet when we step on our mats or when we think about moving our bodies, we think, oh, I have to do this to stay fit. But the truth is that we get to do this. We don't have to do it. So we share with our community that find the movement that you truly love. And that's the only way you'll actually be able to sustain it in the long run. And for many of us here, why we sit here today is because we love asanas. That's our form of preferred movement. So whatever one's preferred form of movement is what they should practice each day. And I think the lives we've started to live today, there's so many diseases in the world today. There's diabetes, there's thyroid imbalance, there's high blood pressure. But the reason why many of these diseases are happening is because we're all suffering from something called sitting disease, where we're just sitting all the time. And we spend our whole day, our whole week, our whole month just moving from one sitting chair to the other. We wake up in bed, and straight from there we sit on the toilet, then we sit on the breakfast table to have our breakfast. From there we go sit in a car or in a cab and drive to work. We sit all day in an office chair. If we stand up, it's only to go to the cafeteria and sit for lunch, and then we come back, again sit and drive back to home, and then we sit on the dining table to have our dinner, and then we slide back into bed. So all the time we're just sitting, and sitting. But if you go back to any time in history, that's not how our ancestors lived. They were always on the move. They were always moving. If we talk about India, our ancestors were, even to grind our flour, we had to stretch our arms back and forth, back and forth. We had to go to the well to get our water. Women used to walk long distances. So of course, maybe that's not practical today. But the point is that movement is an inherent quality of us human beings. And a body which moves stays alive, and a body that is stationary decomposes. So, yes, that's our approach to movement. And we also share with the Sattvic community that, one thing that we can do when it comes to movement to really make it practical is that we don't have to be perfectionists when it comes to our movement. Often we think that, okay, today I will go for my practice, but I'll do like a 1-hour sweat session, and only then will it be qualified as a good session I had. But in that process, we don't actually end up doing it every day. So it's better to first establish a habit and then perfect it, rather than first trying to perfect it and then hoping that we somehow get to sustain it. So what we share is that even if you do a little every day, but be consistent with it and do it every day and then focus on perfecting it. So be consistent rather than trying to be perfect at it. That's what allows us to sustain it.
Amish, can you speak a little bit about the role of Ayurveda, particularly in the Western world, that in the United States, we, to a great extent, I'd say to a great extent, I'm speaking generally, to a great extent, we are incredibly disconnected from seasons, incredibly disconnected from cycles, incredibly disconnected from our breath, and definitely disconnected from the planet, meaning the food that it serves us. Can you speak to, as somebody who bridges both worlds in your journey, Indian ancestry, born in the United States, having an understanding of both worlds, and now having been, essentially you returned to one of the most important things that India has to offer the world, to heal yourself and save your own life. Can you speak to how that translates in the Western world as you see it through your eyes?
I don't think the Western world gets it. It's simple as that. We talk about how the 5 elements compose everything in the whole entire universe. Everything. This table, the water, the microphone, everything is composed of the 5 elements. Everything we interact with, everything we put in our body composes of the 5 elements. Now, in the Western system, we look at something and say, that's the problem. We just say, this is the problem. But we don't look at what's going on. We don't look at the root cause. And the ancients of India knew that the 5 elements created everything in our universe and controls everything that we interact with, that we put in our body. And those 5 elements, from the trees to the brush to the food to everything, have different qualities to them. The 3 doshas, if you're familiar with them. And those are different combinations of the 5 elements. Even yoga asanas are related to the 5 elements and different doshas. You go to anyone in the Western world who's a scientist or a doctor, they'll think you're crazy. They'll be like, you're nuts, you don't know what you're talking about. It's just awareness and education. They're just not taught to think like that. Like now when I'm walking around, I'm like, oh, fire, water, oh, there it is. Like I just think in those terms. And it changes. It's a new way of thinking. It's a whole new paradigm that when you start thinking like this, the answers automatically show up and come to you because you can look at it from the truth. And so the ancients knew this. They baked it into their artwork. They put it in their dance. They put it in their scriptures. They put it in their songs, in their hymns, in Ayurveda, in yoga, in astrology, in Vastu. Why would they go to the extent to talk about the 5 elements in every single scripture? From the Puranas to the Vedas to the Upanishads. Why? Because there's so much wisdom there. On our altars, there's 5 elements that we pray to every single day. Why? Because they knew that that was the answer to everything in life. And so, from a Western perspective, we like to just isolate something and say, that is it. That's what that is. But it's composed of so much more. And I think it's up to us to understand that, the 5 elements, how things are created, how things work from that perspective, and then share it with people. And that's how we're going to start tipping this paradigm and this stuckness that we have.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm one of those Westerners who benefited greatly from Ayurveda. And I find myself to it I come skeptical to things, certainly in my past. And I come to Ayurveda through necessity, through pain and suffering, much like you. And so Zach speaks about the opportunity cost of pain, that we don't want to take away somebody's pain too quickly. because it serves a purpose. It's pointing in a direction, and it's important for them to follow in the direction that the pain is pointing them. So my greatest hope is, I agree that there's a tremendous disconnect between the gift of this Eastern healing modality and Western mentality. And I also see that politics and misunderstandings around nationalistic tendencies also can get in the way of these things. I've had so many people tell me that, I mean, you just wouldn't even believe it. I have people in the United States come up to me and say things like, "You're appropriating yoga. You're appropriating something that belongs to Indian people, and it's very inappropriate that you be teaching this in the way that you're teaching this." As if there's some disrespect or some lack of understanding of where this is coming from. Ironically, this is only white people that ever say this to me. There's never been an Indian man, woman, ever who came up to me and said, "I would prefer you not teach our yoga." Always it was, every teacher I've ever had, especially in India, has always said, yoga is a gift to all humanity. Spread it everywhere you possibly can. And it's so strange that these ideas get in the way of the spreading of something so important. So yoga predates nationalism, yoga predates religion. It happened to show up in the geography that we're in right now. But it found its way to the planet Earth. And so I wonder if, Zach, if you would speak a little bit to this concept of how you see things getting lost in translation and some of the blockages that we have to pursuing what eventually becomes so obvious to all of us, that we need help and we need a new way, and there is a way that exists that's helpful.
I suppose what comes to mind there is there's a line in the Course in Miracles that I feel like was the most challenging one for me to swallow for the years, and it was the line that said that the five senses of the human were designed by God to give you the impression that you are separate. And I really did not like that line, because it just seems like a trick. It seems like that's not a loving God that would give us five senses, that when we'd have to go on this journey of separation, and I was just very frustrated by that. But the whole damn book was so true all the way through that I had to keep coming back to that sentence and being like, there is truth here, and I'm really resisting it, and I don't know what it is, but this is really painful that I got tricked into this whole freaking pain scenario of being separate from God. Why would I be designed that way? And so the nationalistic appropriations that you're talking about, and the whole concept of religious differences or race differences or socioeconomic differences or caste systems are the result of our senses. And so we were given five senses that rapidly categorize the world as separate. That tree has got that type of leaf, and that tree has that type of leaf, so those can't be the same thing. We'll call that an aspen, we'll call that an oak. That person has dark skin, this person has light skin, they can't be the same thing, so we'll call that one Indian, we'll call that Caucasian, we'll do it whatever we want to do. That one's European. And so our senses are constantly sensing the difference between things. And this is the lie that was given to us by our five senses, is that we were given senses that detect the difference in everything rather than the similarity and the unity of everything. So why would the divine do that to us? Why would you be so viciously attacked by being given five senses that then would send you on a journey into this belief that yoga was given here, and math was given over here, and the horse is over there, and the bird is over there, and everything's different, and everything's separate? Why? And in the end, it comes down to that perhaps similar to that Archimedes thing, where Archimedes, I think, said, if you give me a platform big enough, I'll move the earth with a fulcrum. He said, I'll move it with a lever. Just give me a platform. If you give me a platform away from God, I will be able to see God. That's why you were given five senses that would separate you from everything, so that you could see it separate from you, so that you could experience beauty different than the bird or the elephant or the tree can sense. They all are experiencing singularity. And it's why the bird doesn't stop flying to witness the sunset. Instead, it moves in the currents of the colors that we witness with our eyes. They're experiencing it as an electromagnetic field that's unfolding, and they dance within it in a murmuration of a million birds that do hyper patterns of sacred geometry in space-time as a single organism. The elephant moves along the terrain of Africa in a 4-hour sunset and never stops to look up at the sunset because it feels it in its feet. It feels the love of Mother Earth receiving the vibration. It has no need to stop and witness the beauty. You were asked to see the sunset. You signed up to see the sunset. You signed up to be the species that would be separate enough to see beauty. And for that, you will be on a long journey of pain and separation until you find out that, oh, it's not rejection. This is not abandonment. This is the gift of seeing beauty. And so when we start to understand disease is the misunderstanding of separation. The separation was a gift that you signed up for because you wanted to see the steam rising from a cup of coffee in the morning. You wanted to see the wrinkles on the back of your grandmother's hand when she holds your hand. You wanted to feel the touch of a child's face when you feel that skin and that smile beneath the surface. You wanted to feel the skin of a lover against your body, knowing that your body is separate from that body so you could experience that other body against yours. And you could be witnessed and seen by something that is separate from you for a moment. You signed up to be separate. You are a light being that is infinite in space, time, and identity. And you chose separateness so that you could see how beautiful everything is. And so let your disease take you there. And because of the fallacy of the 5 senses, when we are in comfort, we are numbed out and we don't pay attention. When we are uncomfortable, we pay attention and we change direction. The pain that you are experiencing is asking you to go see more beauty, probably within yourself. But you can't see your own beauty until you see it in the eyes of another person. We have to stop holding on to each other as if we're going to complete each other, because we cannot. There's no human being that you're waiting for to come make you feel more loved. There's nothing that can love you more than God loves you. So stop holding each other accountable to such ridiculous metrics. Instead, realize that you are signing up for that relationship to see the pain in the other person, because that's you. We need to start celebrating the shit out of the imperfections that we have stepped into so that we could be human. I was talking to a goldsmith recently, and she was expressing her great frustration to one of her master goldsmiths that she learned from. Why can't I buy perfect gold? Why can't I buy 100% gold? Because it has this incredible medicinal factor. It can heal my patients when I put gold on their bodies. I want to get 100% gold. And the goldsmith laughed at her and he said, "Are you ridiculous?" He said, "Gold is the mineral state of light. And if it was 100% pure, it would just return to light. You can only buy 99.9% pure gold because it needs the imperfections to stay solid." And when she said this, I burst out crying, realizing I had been judging myself for my 0.1% imperfections, not realizing that's what keeps me from being the light. I needed it because I am fucking gold. And so let's start celebrating the imperfections in one another, because it's what makes you solid, friends. That's what makes you human, is your imperfections, and your disease will take you to appreciate those imperfections deeply. So don't hide the disease. Share it with one another. Talk to each other about your insecurities, your fears, your guilts, your shames. Share that and shine light on it and say, look at this ridiculous thing. I'm still holding my husband accountable for this stupid thing that he will never be able to do. And I know he will never be able to do it, but I'm going to hold him accountable to the impossible. And I will be annoyed every day that that man continues to fall on his face and be unable to do that thing.
That's quite enough.
I love you guys.
Harshvardhan, Shubha, Amish, Zach Bush, give it up for these folks. Come on up, give it up, put your hands together. Show your love, show your love.